living here is not what it seems. Ship of white, light in the sky. Nobody there to reason why. Here I am, I'm not really there. Smiling faces ever so rare. Let's walk in deepest space. Living here just isn't the place. Sparks of light come from the ground. When I cry, there isn't a sound. All my feelings cannot be held. I'm happy in my new strange world. Shades of green, grasses twine. Girls drinking glass more wine. I look at love, a dream unfolds. Living here, you'll never grow old.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, only seen here out of Tin Mirror Studios. And there's Jimmy Farrow, my protector. Jimmy, how are you?
Your protector. What kind of fucking opening is that to start with?
Ow!
The
Whoa! Well,
What's wrong with you?
gotta tell
Don't
you.
make me come through that screen. Ay.
Listen. He
Yeah.
didn't like the question. I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
He was great, by the way. Let's not get
he
me
was
wrong.
great.
He was fantastic.
He was great. Yep, he was. That's about the realest interview we've ever had, my friend.
Yeah. Hello.
Period.
But I love you,
Period.
man. You're my buddy, man. You come to my defense. I love it.
Yeah,
I
well,
love
you know,
it.
I was afraid we were about to get the Wizard of Oz
Well,
thing.
you
where
listen,
an
dude, there's a
initial-
difference. Wait a minute. There's a difference when guys are in studio where we've had those issues and
Right,
over
yeah.
the internet. I mean, the worst
Yeah.
thing that could happen is he disconnects his phone or computer,
Right. After seeing you get punched in the face in person, yeah.
Or Ken
it could've been
Patera
worse.
wanted to fuck me up, right? It's
Yep, I remember that.
But let
Yep,
me
I
ask
was
you a
like,
question. And on a
yeah.
serious note, obviously, like, the guy misses his father. I totally get it. I get it. And his grandfather, too. I get it. But did you
Right.
understand my question?
I understood your question.
Tell me what you understood from my question, please.
I understood your question, but the preface that I wound up using was how I would have phrased it. And look, we've got different ways of asking questions. We're all different.
No, but
you know?
wait a minute, hold on. I'm asking you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm asking him, right?
Right.
His father passes away.
Yeah.
I understand he's upset and unconsolable. That wasn't the question. The question is, after all these years, and again,
Right.
you're right. I'm only going off what the internet says, so I'm assuming that so I understand where you were going with this. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
So I'm assuming that the internet is right and he OD'd on cocaine according to what the internet says. So
and I never assume that the internet is right.
well,
but go
hold
ahead.
on, dude. When you hear a story and you're asking questions, that's what you're going off of, okay?
Absolutely.
All right,
I
so
understand.
when
I
he said,
understand.
I think it was a joke on band, so he knows his portion of it. But
Right.
my whole point is,
Right.
if that was the case, so I think his response should be to me, see, there's a problem, Monty, right? He should have said to
Right.
me, is you're believing the story that was told.
Right.
That's not
right.
what happened.
Right.
So
Look,
I wouldn't be mad at him because that's not what happened. I'd be like, holy shit.
Right.
Tell me,
Right.
fill me in. Because
Right.
you did correct
I
yourself.
get it.
You got it. You were right about that. You corrected it. But my
Right.
point was, if it was that case, right?
Right.
Are you mad? Right?
I totally understand why you would want to ask that question. This is the kind of show where we ask human questions. It is not inconsistent with anything we've ever done in the past. This was Joe's reaction. This was Joe's true, real reaction. He's entitled to it, like we've said to every single guest we've ever had on.
he revealed
know?
that he doesn't believe that was the case, that this is something else happened, which
Right.
understood
Right.
why he wouldn't be mad, right? So we got to the end result, and that's what I
Yes.
wanted to get to with
Yes.
him, right?
Yes. Yes. But I will admit, though, for the first time in my life, I actually did almost duck under the table as you got ready to ask him the Vince question, because I didn't know what the next question was. And I was like, holy shit, I'm literally going to go under the table here because I don't want to see him get mad.
Let me preface this. Preface? I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever the fucking word is.
Let me just say this. Go
Right.
ahead.
Let me just say this. The guy's a really good guy. I liked him.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot. I'm not so sure he liked
Yeah.
me, but I liked him a lot. Right. Thank God I had you, because if it was a one-on-one, there probably would have been really problems. You know what I mean?
Oddly enough, just on a wrestling term, quick, I was a fan of Curtis Axel. I didn't understand when him and Heyman broke off. I don't know what the hell was going on there.
Well, you understood it because it didn't work. It didn't work at that time.
At the time, I didn't understand it. I thought
I'm
pairing.
going to explain something that I felt about this, right?
Right.
And I always felt about him, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I felt he had the body, he had the look, he had the
Right.
wrestling skills. His mic skills were okay.
They were fine.
They were
They were
okay.
fine.
They were serviceable, to use your words.
I thought they were fine. Go ahead.
I always felt that the WWE was either stay away from the Mr. Perfect character or go
Right.
all in. They stayed in the middle, and that's how I always felt about it. It's like you can't do,
Right.
my name is
I got
Curtis Axel, but do nothing that Mr. Perfect did, right?
Right.
I always felt like, why didn't they do a character like Mr. Perfect, but everything he did wasn't perfect?
I think that it was the right thing to not try to be like Mr. Perfect. When have we ever seen it work?
I agree with
with
you, Jimmy,
anyone.
but
Bray Wyatt needed to be Bray Wyatt.
Jimmy, I agree with you.
Jack Mulligan Jr. needed
Then
to
you
be
don't
Barry
call
Windham.
him Curtis Axel.
Why? I had no problem with that.
Because you're referring to his great grandfather,
right.
Larry Hennig,
Right.
and his father, Kurt Hennig. Everybody knows what you're doing here.
I thought the name was clever enough because you weren't calling him Mr. Perfect and you weren't calling him Kurt Hennig Jr. And I was okay with the name. I thought the name
As
sounded
a fan,
cool.
you knew what it meant, though, right?
I knew who he was.
Yeah. I disagree with
But
you.
it didn't disturb me at all.
I don't think Mike McGillicuddy was the right name either.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Okay, but if you're gonna go all in, then you got to go all in. Like he should have been in the singlet. You should have went the whole route, or don't do it at all. You know, Ted DiBiase Jr. wasn't the $1 million man when he was out there.
Right.
He was Ted DiBiase Jr.
Which was a mistake in itself.
Why couldn't you just be Joe Hennig? There's nothing wrong with that.
Should have in DiBiase Jr.'s case should have come up with a different name. Once you're starting to deal with Junior, please give me an example.
Barry Windham.
The only time it's ever worked is if Barry Windham was Black Jack Mulligan Jr. and it didn't work. That's why he's Barry Windham.
Well, he went to his real name.
No one walks up to his table and goes, "Hi, Black Jack Mulligan Jr." They go, "Hi, Barry Windham."
But it worked because he was Barry Windham.
Right. And like I said, I felt at the time as a fan, and the fans that I was watching wrestling with 10 years ago or so when this was going on, we were all confused.
Yeah, but dude, here's the thing. For marketing purposes, if you gave him the name Ted DiBiase, then you got a whole problem. That's why they put the junior on it. They could have definitely put Joe Hennig, in my opinion, and done very well with that. They fucked up. They just didn't go all in or all out. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that. You know what? I'm not going to disagree that Joe Hennig wouldn't have done fine. You very well may have. I can see that. So I'm agreeing with you somewhat. You know, Curtis Axel didn't bother me at all.
I didn't like that name, dude, to be honest with you. I
got you.
I got
you.
It's like, whatever.
But, how about the original intention, Curtis Mayhem?
He didn't seem
like
like
Axel
a mayhem.
more.
He didn't. I will tell you something, okay? When you would see Joe, and I'm calling him Joe because he said call him Joe.
Right.
I didn't see him as this animal. Like I always saw him as like Mr. Perfect. When you saw Kurt Hennig, right, Mr. Perfect, you didn't think about a beast or a Brock Lesnar. You thought about this
Athlete.
athlete. Yeah. That's the way I looked at Joe Henning.
Athlete. A very, very, very cunning, colorful athlete, Mr. Perfect. Look, Mr. Perfect was one in a kabillion. All right. I do think that he wound up taking the smarter. You cannot replicate Mr. Perfect. I don't think it's something that can be replicated. It's just one of those, you know? And I think all things considered, Joe did a hell of a job with what he was asked to do when he was asked to do it in the time frame he was asked to do it.
I'm not.
He was a
disagreeing
good
with you.
Intercontinental Champion. I liked him with Paul Heyman, and I was confused as fuck when I watched all of a sudden everything change. Now, I will say this much. When Paul Heyman was put with Cesaro, I said,
I
When
thought,
Paul
I,
Heyman
honestly, I thought you weren't happy when they put him with Henning either, to be honest.
No, I was perfectly fine when they put him with, because that's what I had hoped for. I had wanted him to have more, just like he was
Then
explaining.
why didn't you like him with Cesaro then? I don't understand that.
Because I didn't feel that Cesaro, you see, when Curtis Axel was promoted and put next to Paul as Curtis Axel and then held the belt for 36, almost a half a year, it wasn't the same situation as is what we had with Cesaro, because Cesaro was, the fans love Cesaro. We want more Cesaro. Push for Cesaro. Blah, blah, blah. Look, we've been through this before with when the fans want something. So, okay, here's Cesaro with Paul Heyman. Yeah! Does this sound AEW familiar? Big Pop! Yay! He's with Paul Heyman. You know what? A month later, it was as stale as a piece of gum that you should have spit out of your mouth 2 weeks previous.
What was the other question Joe got mad at?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Abe,
I'm
what was the other
so
question
fixated on the on the one, you know.
Joe, Abe's thinking about it right now.
Well, don't think too much because you might require aspirin. Anyway.
It was about the Hall of Fame speech.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
God damn, Jimmy, I swear, but it makes sense though because I tried to listen to it today. It didn't come up. I'm like, why is this not coming up? Well, there you go.
Right.
Monty blows it again. I mean, dude, I remember specifically that Hall of Fame induction,
Right.
and I remember
Right.
seeing him, and I swear I thought he
Right.
had said something. I guess not, but he was a
Right.
big boy back then.
Well, you know what the moral to this story is, Mike? If you would ask this question last night when this show was originally scheduled, how do we know we get the same result?
That's right. Could have been different results.
It might have got different results. Everything changes. The slightest thing, you know. So there's.
I will
that.
tell you though, it's the most I've ever been scared over a computer.
I'm like, where do I run to? I'm gonna trip over the heater. I'm like,
It's gonna come through here and rip my face off. My God.
Oh my God,
Dude,
oh my
I gotta
God.
tell you though, man, the love that dude has for his father and his grandfather,
Well,
pretty good
do
shit.
you blame him? I don't blame him. You know,
Well,
look,
I hope
and
we
it
all
is-
would love our relatives, dude.
You know, and understand too, and you do understand this. A lot of wrestlers come on thinking that they're going to be asked mostly wrestling questions. That's not how we
Dude, who
function.
wants to ask wrestling questions? Fuck
You know,
that.
Mike, could you tell me about that armbar you put on me
My
back in
God,
Harley
no,
Avenue?
I'm legitimately serious. Like, and here's the other thing too, right? It's like, it's Joe Henning's interview, right?
Right,
Are we going to spend the whole fucking interview asking about his father? I got to be honest with you. No.
right.
And I guarantee everybody else would be. Oh,
Right.
tell me about your father. Tell me what your
I
father
agree.
did. Tell me your father. I don't,
Right.
again, Kurt Hennig
Right.
was iconic. I'm not
Right.
disagreeing there at all. But
Right.
Joe Hennig also needs his flowers. Do you follow
He
what I'm
did
saying?
plenty. To me, he did plenty. Like I said, I liked him. I liked him when he was with Heyman. I liked this run.
Oh, and by the way, Jimmy and Abe,
Yeah.
Joe Hennig will now have a podcast seen by 500 million subscribers. in
Probably.
about 2 weeks. You can
Probably.
count on that.
Good.
He'll
Good.
join Maven and everybody else as Monte The Pharaoh sitting simmering their own bullshit. Yeah, we're laughing.
Yeah, because I put
we're
it
the
in Uber
fucking
for
guys.
White.
We're laughing at ourselves.
Because I put it in Uber order for White Castle and they blew me off. I'm starving.
How funny! Look at that. You put in Uber for White Castle.
Yeah, there
Nice.
you go.
And they
You
don't
know,
even
that's
come.
how well it's going for
There
two
you
old
go.
guys.
That's the way it works for us. Nothing works out for Monte The Pharaoh. That's all
And
I
we're
gotta
Jet
say.
fans. Talk about a fuck you.
And a Yankee
with
fan, and Knicks fans, and Ranger fans.
Leave the Yankees out of this. They're not the Jets. Jesus God, stop lumping everybody together. Yes, they're all torturous.
By the way,
no,
I
come
saw
on.
an article on the girl actress who was engaged to Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
And she said it was the worst fucking time of her life. You know
Why,
what, man?
He kept throwing short passes? What's
Jimmy,
the problem?
all I got to tell you is all I remember this. A year and a half ago or 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I'm sitting watching the Ranger game in Madison Square Garden, and who's sitting there is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And they put him on the camera, and 25,000 people, including Mike Monty, are applauding and screaming and thanking him and kissing his ass. For what?
I'll tell you for what. Next year's a $49 million cap hit, and if we release him, it's $63 million if we play him the full year. So we have a choice. Do we want to release him for $49 million or keep him for the full year and pay him $63 million? We're fucked.
It's all, Jimmy. We said this in the car that day.
Yeah.
If this doesn't work,
oh God,
it's over, Johnny. And this is my life, man. I go to work, I come home.
Yeah.
I go to work, I come and I get yelled at, and then on my show I get yelled at by Joe.
You get yelled at by Joe Hedrick. Yep, you do.
Wow, tough.
You did. It's been a hell of a day. You know what? Maybe you should play a few scratch offs tomorrow. You never know. Your luck might change.
Too. Yeah, good luck with that too. NFL legend Randy Moss to take extended leave from ESPN role amid health issues. NFL legend Randy Moss is set to take some time away from his work on ESPN, the network announced on Friday, due to unknown health issues. Thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Randy Moss. You want to know why I like Randy Moss?
Why?
Because he's one more example of how the Jets have always been short-minded and short-sighted. Did you know that the Jets had a chance back in the late 90s to draft Randy Moss? But, oh, no, we can't draft Randy Moss because he smokes pot. Fuck you, New York Jets. You don't know shit, okay? You don't know shit about talent.
But it's what you're not getting. If they would have drafted him, they would have no one to throw the ball to him anyway. So it wouldn't have mattered.
What, like Testaverde and Pennington couldn't have done something with him? You're acting up like we had Zach Wilson or something.
Whatever.
Or Scott Boyle.
Doesn't matter.
Matter. Well, either way, just like Warren Sapp, we passed up on a Hall of Famer. I don't know what his personal problems are. I hope he's okay. I mean, that's very vague as to what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. But I like Randy Moss. I always did. I always thought he was a top receiver.
Honestly, I'm wishing the best for him. I hope his health issues aren't bad.
Yeah, agreed.
And by the way, he's a great ESPN analyst.
You see that? I don't know too much about it. I don't watch too much television nowadays.
Well, I try to watch like the analysts and see what these guys talk about. And we're going to talk about that because I got a very interesting thing I want to discuss with you. But first, AEW star details abuse from CM Punk, claims AEW legal offer a settlement before threatening to sue. One former AEW star, if I could find my little cursor here, isn't done speaking out about his issues with CM Punk in All Elite Wrestling. Before CM Punk returned to the WWE Survivor Series 2023, his 2 years in AEW were fraught with turmoil. While Punk's AEW debut on Rampage in August 21 is hailed as one of the greatest professional wrestling returns of all time, backstage tensions would soon nearly rear their ugly head. Punk's backstage brawl in 2022 has become stuff of legend, and especially with his altercation with Jack Perry. So basically what's happening here, my friend, is the brother of Dolph Ziggler has been having issues with CM Punk. He went to Tony Khan about it, and Tony Khan, I think, accidentally tweeted, like, fuck this guy, back to Nemeth instead of the people I guess he was trying to reach out to, CM Punk. So now Tony Khan's finding himself in a little bit of hot water.
What did CM Punk do? We don't have
That
any
is not
details.
revealed, Jimmy. That is not
Well, then-
revealed.
well, then who-
From what I
then who-
understand, it could be a little bullying. It could be something else.
Bullying.
I'm not sure. Right?
Is Punk striking you as being a bully since he returned to WWE, or as a
Punk-
responsible coach?
Listen, Punk in the WWE has won me over, but it still doesn't change the fact we know what CM Punk was. Is,
Right.
and
What did
still
Joe
is.
just get done saying about CM Punk and how he was to him towards his career? What did Joe just get done saying?
Said he
How
was a
good
guy.
Punk was
Said
to
he
him.
was a good guy. Yeah.
You know, from what I know about this was a talent enhancement situation guy who's upset with CM Punk, yet I have no details on it. Trying to make a name for yourself, buddy? That's what I think. That's my gut so far.
Well,
Trying to make it.
he is Dolph Ziggler's brother, though.
Oh, well. That makes a world of difference. Everybody out.
Wow, you've really turned the worm on CM Punk.
Not
You were
to
up,
turn
down,
Ralph
and now
Graham did.
back up. But this
Well,
guy.
you know what, though? It's the old innocent until proven guilty. You got a lot of things to say, but yet we have
Well,
no
honestly,
details,
it's nothing
Mike.
to be guilty about, right? It's
You know?
actually Tony Khan's problem now because
Right.
this guy went to Tony Khan, regardless whether it's true or not, brought it to
Right.
Tony Khan's attention, and Tony Khan at the time did nothing
Right.
about it. And
Right.
when he went to the lawyers of AEW, they said they were going to address it. And from what I understand, is
Right.
then they didn't book this guy for 3 months, which is their right, by the way. But he
Right.
feels that happened because of his complaints to Tony Khan.
Okay. Well, such as the wrestling business. There's been many times where we've seen Vince McMahon in a situation where something wrong is going on underneath him. And, it's all your fault, Vince, because you're the overseer. So until I get more details on what exactly this guy supposedly went through, trying to make a name for yourself, buddy, that's my assumption.
Fair enough.
You know?
Fair enough.
That's my assumption.
So, dude, let me ask you a question. Let's talk a little real talk before we get into some other stuff. I want to talk a little bit about the Monte and the Pharaoh show itself. Are you ready for
Go
this? You think you're
Probably
ready?
not, but go ahead. I don't know.
So let me ask you something. As if you were just a fan,
Yeah.
right? Whatever, right? I know you're a busy man. You've got work to do, and you're not much of a podcast watcher or anything like that. I totally get it. But
Right.
as a fan for entertainment, would you watch Monte the Pharaoh if it didn't have Jimmy and Pharaoh on it?
Well, what is that supposed to mean? Would I watch Fake Diesel and Razor Ramon? The answer is no.
No, what I mean, if there was a person that was exactly you, but it wasn't you, I don't know. I guess that's a stupid
What
way
if
to
they
present it.
artificial intelligence us? Would I watch Monty and the
If
Pharaoh?
you were
it-
if you weren't Jimmy Pharaoh, would you watch
Yeah.
Monte and the Pharaoh?
Would I watch if I was to watch wrestling podcasts? Would I watch a show like this?
Yes.
The answer is yes, because
Why?
I don't like to be bored. I don't like to be bored, and no, I don't want to see two guys sitting in their living rooms talking about wrestling every week. It bores the fuck out of me. So there is a reason.
Here's my frustration, right? When we started this together, it wasn't about YouTube. It was just about period, right? Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, cable, like a million venues, right? Audio.
It took its
Now
steps
we're on
along
Stripes
the way.
TV, right? Which I've
It
got to
took
fix.
it took its steps, but it started on Facebook. Go ahead.
I got to tell you, like, again,
Yeah.
I am totally grateful for the stars that come on the show, for the people that watch this show, from RJ Hudson to B40 to Benny Scala to Maria Davis. I mean, the list is insurmountable, right?
Mr. President Phil.
Mr. President Phil, ESO for his support.
Yep.
Jason Morning. I mean, look, I don't
Right.
want to sound ungrateful, but I got to tell you, dude, at some point, like when I look at some of this stuff, I'm like, my God, why
Right.
is this not picking up more traction?
Right. Right.
It's like I understand the competition is thick. You got wrestlers out there. Look, you even said it. You like the kid James from overseas. You said it, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Well,
he
I
does a
said that
good
he's
job.
He's
but
got
it-
skills. It's not like I tune in though to watch him on any kind of regular basis.
No, but
'cause I
you
don't.
might get a clip that you go, hey, let me watch this 5-8 minute clip or 3 minute clip, whatever he puts together.
If it's interesting enough, I've told you already. On less than one hand here, basically, I can tell you who I really consistently listen to, and it's not the kid across the pond.
Right.
There's a show across the pond called Wrestle Me. It's two guys. You never see their faces. They're showing vintage clips and making fun of them. It's hilarious. I find it hilarious. So I find that
So
interesting.
you find that entertaining?
Yeah, because they're entertaining me. They're not boring the crap out of me. I watch Simon. I'm sure you know who Simon is.
Absolutely.
I like Simon. I like British humor, and I get his outtake on things, and I find him interesting. He's a good crash course in case I haven't caught everything. Because, like you said, we have lives. You can't catch everything. I don't watch every last goddamn second of wrestling on television. I have a life. You know. So it's those very few podcasts that I'll turn
R.J.
to. Very
Hudson.
few.
R.J. Hudson's asking if you listen to Conrad.
No,
Why?
no, I don't.
Why?
I don't. I personally don't find Conrad very interesting. That's just me. I don't find Conrad very interesting. I don't find LaGreca's show very interesting. I don't find, you know, I, as interesting, believe it or not, as I found Vince Russo to be during the time period of Vince Russo. I don't find it interesting to listen to Vince Russo
I guess,
now.
Jimmy, sometimes I think to myself, like when we first started, right, we started with the whole same thing everybody else did, right? Ask questions, the wrestling questions.
Right.
And
Right.
then, like the way I always do, I kind of muscled you a little bit and said, well, let's do it this
Kind
way.
of?
More than kind of, but I'm trying to be polite.
Yeah.
And now I
trying.
think back and I go, maybe we should have just stuck to the wrestling
No.
shit. You know what I mean?
No, because otherwise, look, you want to say strong armed or whatever. You wanted this to be a part of it. If I didn't want to be a part of this, I would have.
I'm not saying that you
disappeared a
didn't
long
want to
time
be
ago.
a part of it, but I'm just saying,
You know?
okay, so then you got to take half the blame, right? I think to myself, maybe we should have stuck to, tell us about
Listen,
1978. You know what I mean?
no, not at all. Listen, everybody's very different. We all know who I live with now. Okay, we asked Karen about her children passing away. All right. That was a very, very deep question to ask. We were not asking, tell us about how Wahoo used to blade or how Wahoo used to be on the road for, this, that. We asked personal questions. Everybody responds differently. And that's the bottom line. I found the last show that we just did to be one of the realest shows we've ever done, whether I was about to hide under the table or not. That was entertaining as hell. I would tend to think if you're sitting at home watching that, you're not getting ready to just switch the channel when Joe flips out. Okay?
Imagine if
You
Karen
understand what I'm
McDaniel would have
saying?
said to me, "What kind of fucking question is that?"
That was absolutely priceless. I was like, holy shit. I was, like I said, waiting for that Wizard of Oz that we experienced a couple of weeks ago with a little initial to pop
Jimmy,
up in the middle
Jimmy,
going,
I gotta be honest with you, man. Sometimes I go to myself, poor Jimmy Farrow got stuck with me because it's like, Jimmy. All right, so Jimmy and I are very close friends. He's my brother, right? But we are definitely two different type of people. And
what are you saying? I could have been sitting next to Mauro Ranallo announcing the fucking Tyson
who knows? Maybe it's like,
Hey,
you
come on.
got to deal with. Look, dude, think about it. You're right. Just 2 weeks ago with Miami Heat, wow, the producer came on and told us to stop the show. I mean,
Right.
now we got
Right.
Joe Henning. And listen, it's not like Joe Henning's a nobody. I mean, Joe Henning is a
Right.
pretty recent WWE superstar.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
probably takes a lot to piss Joe Henning off. He's pretty pissed.
Oh.
All I kept thinking to myself is, oh, my God, imagine if Brock Lesnar was on the other end of this.
No, don't you dare ever ask Brock Lesnar or anything like that. My God. Especially if it's in studio.
Dude, again, listen, I just, I think to myself, I feel bad for Jimmy because Jimmy's got to deal with this shit. And then I think to myself, and maybe it's me. I just didn't think there was anything wrong with that question. It wasn't a cheap shot. It was
Right,
a question.
It's a very sensitive question that has been asked to others, and everybody responds differently. I can't say it again. Okay. And we got a very different response. That's all there is to it.
Look, I'm not offended, and I want to make it clear, I'm not offended by the response, dude. I'm not.
Right.
I just
It was a real one, period. It was as real as they get.
then you got YouTube shutting down our show every fucking week. I mean, what the fuck is going on here,
I
man?
I don't know. I have no idea.
And
Perhaps
that's
we
why
should
I
get-
blame myself, because it's like every move I go left, I should have went right. I go right, I
don't-
should have went left. It's
I
like
don't think that it's necessarily that. Look, I've said it 1,000 times. We are in the entertainment business. I was in the entertainment business when you were unfortunately in the Gulf
Dude,
War.
wait a minute. Do you understand something? I want to make something clear. I like Lee Cole. I am friends with Lee Cole. He's a
Okay.
good guy.
Okay.
But do you know how much it bothers me that he goes on the air and he's got 80 people watching him talking the same Vince McMahon nonsense every week?
Right.
And
Okay.
we're
Okay.
trying to put together
okay.
original programming.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, thank God for little
Right.
Patty Maria Davis. We'd have no one watching us. We'd be
No,
fucking
hold
done.
On, hold on a second. Okay, fine. So he's got 80 people. How many people are in the world, by the way? He's got 80 people in his room. Let me ask you this question, and I better get an honest answer
Yeah,
because you've seen it for yourself.
sure.
Like what happened at the gathering for me. Like what happened when we just did the wrestling convention up in New York. Hey, Pharaoh, it's Monte the Pharaoh. You think when Lee Cole's
Well,
walking
hold
through
on.
a
Tell the
wrestling
truth here.
convention-
It wasn't, hey, it's Monte the Pharaoh. It's, hey, it's the Pharaoh. So let's call it right. Let's be fair. Let's be
Okay,
fair.
oh, fine. You want? You know what? I'm trying to just explain
I
the
got it. Go
obvious.
ahead,
When
go ahead.
Lee Cole is walking through a wrestling convention, you think anybody's stopping to shout out, "Hey, it's Lee Cole"?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just on one of my down.
So
and out.
mazel tov with your 80 live people, and I like Lee Cole too. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about your point of contention that you're obsessing over. You're obsessing over nothing.
All I'm saying is, and for everybody out there who's watching us right now,
Yeah.
I will tell you that, number one, I'm grateful. So let's open up there. Number two, I'm grateful for Abe, because when we've gone through a list of producers, and Abe has been not only like a solid producer, he's been a solid friend of ours, has
Amen.
always been there for us. So I'm grateful. This is not a point of not being grateful. But Jimmy and I have put a lot of effort into this, a lot, and a lot of money into this, right? Anything that
Right.
we've made, we've invested back.
We have.
We know. Very rarely have we kept money for ourselves. I think maybe to have dinner once in a while at a diner. Okay?
Yeah.
Everything else has been put back in because we want to entertain people. It means a lot to us that a Maria Davis writes and says thank you, or, R.J. Hudson writes and says thank you, right? We're grateful for our partners like Benny Scala and ESO and Dan Sebastiano. But I got to tell you, Jimmy, I'm at a point where I'm just so fucking frustrated right now. I'm just like, I just don't understand. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. And I think to myself, you're not giving the people what they really want. They want to hear the old stories. They want to hear this. They want to hear that. I'm guessing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we have a very large, considerable library where plenty of stories are told. It's really all in pick your poison. What kind of flavored interview do you want?
B40 is saying hire a social media consultant. So B40, I'm going to explain something to you, and you could be right. I get contacted from people all the time. Here's the problem, and this is my belief, and I could be totally wrong here. Jimmy and I, okay, when we were at an old studio 2 years ago, and Jimmy, you could back me up on this. We went to the studio. We came from one studio, went to this new studio. Our first show, we got like 1,000 views. We were so excited, and we're thinking we're all popular and things are really starting to turn the worm. Only to find out the guy's paying $1.50 and he's buying views off some website. And when I found out, I was crushed, right? And I turned to Jimmy and I'm like, oh my God, this is. And Jimmy said to me, I don't give a shit no matter what. You're not buying, never buy views. And I'm like, I agree. So when these social media guys reach out to me, I'm thinking to myself, okay, the first thing I say to them, B40, is, okay, give me your business plan. and they never have a business plan. And I'm like, we don't want bots.
Right.
And they go, oh, we don't use bots. Okay, give me your business plan. No one can ever give me a business plan. All they guarantee you is views. So it's like, pay me $100 and we guarantee you those views, right?
Yeah.
Bots ain't going to help the show.
No.
And listen, I've talked to people who said, hey, you got to use bots. You know, they do it in record producing. They do it here. They do it there. I don't want it. I don't want it. We don't want it. It's not going to help us. You know, again, we're two 57-year-old guys that love doing the show. We love talking to wrestlers. We love the people that we interact with tremendously. But we want it to be real. What's the point of having it fake? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm just like, I just wanted to talk about it on air because I'm just like, not the woe is me thing. It's just like, I just don't get it, man.
I became hardened years before we ever did this show. And you know that that's the truth.
So Jason's asking,
Yeah.
can X be an option? So on our social media site, Jimmy and I are okay on X, but we don't have enough followers in order to go live on X, right?
Right.
TikTok, we've got a pretty solid following, but guess what? TikTok requires 10,000 followers and 100,000 views a month. We're not near that.
Right.
Facebook, we're monetized, okay?
Right.
But
Right.
Facebook doesn't pay a great amount of money, okay?
Well, what a shock, Zuckerberg.
Well,
Go
I'm just
on.
being honest, right?
Yeah.
YouTube pays a decent amount of. New York Cable doesn't pay us anything, right? We get nothing from New York Cable. We made a deal with Intuitive, Jim Beam. It was a six-figure dude. If everybody knew what our plans were when we were going to get that money,
Right.
they were going to get blown away. All I could say to
Right.
you is Hulk Hogan would have been on this show.
Yep.
Right? By hook or by crook, Hulk Hogan would have been here.
Yep.
But we got
that was
fucked out
happening.
of that deal. So now we're on something called Stripes TV. The deal seems okay. I've got some problems with uploading videos. But again, I don't know what kind of information that, again, we're working on stuff. But when you see, I'm just going to use the kid from England, right? When you see that guy go on and he gets all the views he's getting. I mean, Jimmy, I'm sitting there and he has Maven on, right? And Maven has been a YouTube superstar. He now has a gold. So once you get 100,000 subscribers, you get a silver plaque, and then you get a world belt after a certain amount of time. Maven has both. But they're talking on the video, and the kid from England has 4 silver plaques.
Right.
Do you know that kid is making a living off of YouTube?
Sure. Because I realized years back, Brian Zane is making Wrestling with Regret is making a living off of YouTube. Sure. Sure. I watch a lot of New York Jet podcasters that started off very humbly that are now doing it full time.
Yeah.
Whether it's Matt O'Leary, whether it's Jake Asman wound up on ESPN from his Jet.
So this
gigs.
is why I'm trying to say, Jimmy, sometimes you got to take ownership, right? If it's not working right, you got to blame something. And I'm not blaming you. You're as entertaining as fuck. You're giving everything you got. That has nothing to do with you. It's probably my business plan and my setup. It's just not working. It's not working. And it's just where we're at. That is all. And that to me is tough.
Or we could look at it another way. If we hadn't been canceled a couple of years ago, we could be basically at 40,000 subscribers right now. There's that too.
You could look at it that way. Yeah.
So it is what it is. Again, you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, as an entertainer, you asked for this. I'm now talking about myself. You asked for this. You didn't look to be a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer. For some reason, at a young age, I decided I was going to be an entertainer. So I got in the music business. I asked for this. All right. The odds are against you. Doesn't matter how funny you tell me I am or how entertaining I am. Doesn't matter until somehow through fate, miracle, right business decision. Usually fate is what happens. If we check with a lot of these things, it's a lot of fate. Okay. I don't have control over that. You don't have control over that. All we can do is just put our heads together and try to make the best damn game plan we can and give the best damn product we can and hope for the best. And that's what it's like
again,
to be
I
an
think
entertainer.
to myself, like, okay,
You know,
we
Billy
have.
Joel, I got to finish
Go
this
ahead.
though. Billy Joel forgets what made him special in the first place. And they sit at the bar and put bread in my jar and say, man, what are you doing here? Sure, Billy Joel beat the odds, but do you know how many millions of others who are super talented are still knocking on that damn door? Because you're looking at one right now.
I hear
Do
you,
I lose my belief?
But again, I think to myself, you have Joe Henning on. Instead of asking about his death of his father and his grandfather, right? Because let's be honest with you, today's wrestling fan has no clue who Larry Henning is, and that's not how we feel, right? We're wrestling, not historians, but lovers, right?
God forbid you educate some of your audience while you're having
my
an interview.
point is, maybe
ahead.
I should have just stuck with, we should have just stuck with, how was it winning the Intercontinental title? What was it like being in Nexus? What, as a Heyman guy, what was that like? You know what I'm saying? Maybe we should have just stuck to that. I'm not just talking about that in particular interview. All I'm saying is, something just isn't right. And again, Jimmy, sometimes I think this, and I'll be honest with you, and then we're going to move on because I've wasted enough of your time, is maybe I know how talented you are. Okay, so let's not even put you in this equation. Maybe I'm not as talented as I think I am. That's just the way it is. You call it like it is. Again, as much credit or pats on the back as I've gotten for some of my interviews I've done alone, which you've given me credit for, and I appreciate that, they haven't even sniffed a fucking interview with fucking the kid from England or whatever else. And when I look at them, I'm like, I don't understand. I don't get it. But maybe I just don't get it. Anyway, you can catch Monte The Pharaoh on the Monte The Pharaoh YouTube page, Monte The Pharaoh Facebook page, get some Facebook Live, Twitch TV, which we've got to get that all fixed in the future.
All right.
We're also on New York Cable on Friday nights at 11:30 p.m., channel 115. Saturday nights at 11 p.m. on channel 115. And early Friday morning at 12:30 a.m. on channel 20. Monte The Pharaoh try to bring you the best interviews of professional wrestlers as possible, where we're seeing on New York Cable by 150,000 viewers. You also catch us on audio. You can catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. We're driven by the Believe Network, where there's only a select few of pro wrestling podcasts on that audio network. And we're also going to be seen on Stripes TV. You can go to www.stripes, that's STRIPES TV. It's a free streaming site like a Netflix, and you could go on there. So, Jimmy, I'm listening to Busted Open Radio, and Tommy Dreamer's on there, and he's where obviously I'm in Long Island, and he's saying yesterday he had an appearance. He was appearing at the Smith Haven Mall. We all know how I feel about Tommy Dreamer, the wrestler. Don't really know him as the person. But I said, fuck, maybe I'll just go down there and get a picture with him on a Monte The Pharaoh with a Monte The Pharaoh shirt, because he certainly is not a fan of ours. And I thought it would be kind of funny, and then I could post it on Facebook and make everybody laugh. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go down there because work just took way too much of my time yesterday, which I wasn't happy about because I really did want to go down there. And it was actually, I give the guy kudos. He was down there for the kid Toys for Tots for Merry Christmas, so I wanted to bring a toy down there. So kudos to Tommy Dreamer for being down there. So I missed that picture or that opportunity to have fun with. But I was listening to him on his show when he was announcing this, and he was talking about like jealousy and things like that. And, when we had the ECW group in here, both Francine and I think the Sandman both appeared on NXT along with Bubba Ray, I think, right? And Tommy Dreamer was speaking how he wasn't invited and how it upset him, and that he was such a big part of ECW. It really offended him, and he didn't know how he was going to talk about it the next day on Busted Open Radio without being angry. It was a very good, candid discussion that he was having with himself because he's doing the show himself. But then I started thinking to myself, put all the hatred, the dislike I have for him as a wrestler aside. And I wanted to ask you, and does Tommy Dreamer overrate himself as a wrestler?
As far as his contributions to ECW,
As far as his contributions to professional wrestling?
hard for me to say. I don't listen to Tommy Dreamer the way you do. Do I think that Tommy Dreamer has made the most out of what he did in his professional wrestling career to be where he's at right now with podcasting? Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. His WW, anything outside of ECW to me, and I was not even a fan of his in ECW, is nothing to write home about. Nothing great. However, Tommy Dreamer in ECW, whether I like it or not, is irrelevant. Tommy Dreamer is an ECW legend. Always was when he was there, was one of the main event guys, was beloved. I can understand completely why Tommy Dreamer would be upset for not being invited that night. But again, I don't know what his dynamics are with WWE currently. I don't know who he's getting along with over there and who he's not. But should he have been invited that night?
Well,
I can see why he would be.
Something. You said something very, very smart, right? You said his contributions to ECW were immense, right?
They were.
But B40 brings up a good point, and I'm going to agree with him on this. And I know you're a huge ECW fan.
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
in the history of ECW, and B40 says ECW as a company was overrated. I'm gonna correct that statement and say this: ECW in the history of professional wrestling is a pimple on a fat man's ass. Did it have influence? Yes, just like a pimple does, right? It hurts. You got to pop it, whatever. Did it change the business? Yes, for a very small group of people. Like you had just said, 83 people in a room with a kabillion people. Mike, what are you getting all pissed off about? 600,000 people loving an organization with a wrestling fans, and we'll say 3.5 million. Not such a big deal. You want to answer that one?
ECW historically being referred to as a pimple on an ass is an absolute joke to me. I disagree 1 kabillion %. While it may have not been a big time promotion, in the scheme of things, historically, it turned out to be a landmark promotion. All right, we're not talking about, I don't know, you can give me any old school territory that was not the NWA, that was not AWA. You can give me a lot of them, and I'll go, yeah, well, it did not have the historical impact and influence on this business the way ECW
Georgia Championship
had.
Wrestling or ECW?
Of course, Georgia Championship
Okay,
Wrestling.
hold on.
Let's not get stupid.
Memphis Wrestling or ECW?
Of course, Memphis Wrestling.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm just thinking through it.
NWA or AWA. Outside of that, if you start throwing
Well,
the
to
other
be fair,
stuff like,
dude, to be honest with you, NWA was the entire United States. So for me to pick a region would be NWA.
Don't forget about companies like ICW or CWA or even down in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico did not have the influence on American wrestling the way ECW has. Let's not get silly.
How about
here.
Stampede Wrestling?
Stampede Wrestling is a totally different ball game. All right, now you're talking Canada. Now we get mat wrestling. We get tough mat wrestling. There's different things. You see what ECW had.
All right, I think Jim, hold on. I think the question to you then is this. You're right. Pimple on an ass is an unfair
That's ridiculous.
example. You're right.
It's ridiculous.
But is ECW overrated by people that want it to be overrated?
I don't know what overrated means here. Do you think
is
that
it
there
remembered
are people...
as being this huge thing that changed the industry?
Well, it should not be remembered as this huge thing, because then you're lying to yourself, because it was not this huge thing. It was a secret that purists fell in love with for the oddest of reasons, because ECW was the only program at the time that was giving you both things that we see today in wrestling. Incredible acrobatic mat wrestling, Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn, and was giving us the extreme that became tables, ladders, and chairs. Okay, so basically the two extreme types of wrestlers outside of what we really love, the muscular pound you into the ground guy that comes from Vince's make of wrestler, ECW was giving us those things as a whole before everybody else had figured it out. Everyone else took from ECW. And that's a fact. It's not a myth. It's a fact. It happened. Okay? And it happened for the benefit of WWE in the end. WCW did not know what to do with a hardcore division, and they changed Sandman to Hack. Okay? So they didn't know what to do with that. WCW was given the greatest mat wrestler probably in the history of this business, coming hot off the Survivor Series in Bret Hart, and did not know what to do with that. Vince McMahon saw Chris Jericho as Lionheart Chris Jericho, and then killing it in the cruiserweight division, and put him in the ring with The Rock right away.
So you made your case for ECW.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the original thing. Does Tommy Dreamer overrate himself as a wrestler and his influence on wrestling? I mean, when he talks about it, he talks about his matches with Raven. It's like, dude, like who even knows about those matches?
Look, the bottom line is that the greatest face and not face heel of hardcore wrestling in ECW is fucking Sabu. Okay? Period. Sabu's the man. Sabu's the one who should be invited to everything. Sabu was the suicidal, genocidal, holy shit fucking guy. Okay? Tommy Dreamer bled a lot. Tommy Dreamer took a lot of abuse there. But, again, Tommy Dreamer is an ECW legend. Leave it at that.
Jason Morning says today's ECW influence can be seen mostly at your local outlaw mud show.
Well, you know what? He's not wrong in saying that, but to ignore the fact that the hardcore division and the hardcore style of wrestling we see today, even in the big time, it's there because of ECW. Any of these mat contests that you see where they're flipping and flying and cartwheeling around and stuff, that goes back to the days of Rob Van Dam, or if you even want to get technical, Mexican wrestling, So, yeah, a lot of the garbage, of the bad part of hardcore, you will catch that at a local show.
Right.
The bad part, the worst parts of wrestling, you will usually catch at a local show because either they're green or they're doing something completely not believable and stupid. Who was that wrestler back in the day who threw himself off the top of an apartment building into a dumpster? It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It was from some small company. It wasn't ECW. It was another small company.
Jimmy, do me a favor. Ask me a question. Just ask me a question.
Ask you a question? Yeah. Well, what do you mean ask you a question? Like, what kind of question would you like to be asked? I'm not going to ask you about how you felt about someone's death. That's for shit sure.
No, I was going to. You know what, dude? Forget it.
I mean, well, why do you dislike ECW so much?
I don't dislike it. Here's what kind of fucking stupid question is that?
It's a stupid question. I expect a stupid answer because there's no reason.
On a serious note, I don't dislike ECW. I think it has a place in time, but I think a lot of times when we look at it, like anything else, we look at it as this grandiose thing that changed the industry.
Right.
You know what it did? It made the bigger platforms realize there's another group of fans out there that are looking for something a little bit different. The one thing that I would give ECW credit for, and I'm not even giving ECW the credit, I got to give Bischoff and WCW, is they made wrestling more real. They started using real names. If you want to give ECW the credit for that, I guess kind of, maybe, sort of. But
real? No. NWO was making things real.
Right. And so, again, let's not discount the brilliance of Paul Heyman, but just remember something. I'll go back to it again. His parents gave him $1 million. Like, here's $1 million. Right. I mean, look, in the end, ECW was a failure. I don't care how you want to sell it. It was a failure. Did great stars come from it? RVD, the Dudley Boys, of course. But who made those stars?
Right.
This is one thing we got to remember, Jimmy, is that this is scripted wrestling. There's a guy, there's a Wizard of Oz behind the curtain who's making these decisions on who's going to be famous and who's not. Obviously,
Right.
they see something in someone and they run with it. So obviously, these people have talent. But let's not get this confused that it's the man behind the curtain who's making these people famous. You know, if one day Vince McMahon decided John Cena was not the guy, John Cena's fucking done. That's it. You know, if Stephanie McMahon and say, "Oh, I like his rapping. Let's try this." It's over.
Right.
Stone Cold Steve Austin was a floundering wrestler. He was okay.
Right. That's right.
You know, it's circumstances and the guy behind the curtain. The guy behind the curtain pushed the most famous, popular wrestler there is today, Roman Reigns, until everybody ate the shit sandwich and started to like it.
Yeah, finally.
Right.
Finally, it took years.
But he made you eat it. Now, obviously, Roman's got talent. Obviously, Roman is great. But again, at any point, Vince could have said, "Fuck this, it's not working. Goodbye, Roman."
Right. And that's where you have to sometimes make a decision like a CM Punk and go, I don't fucking have to take this, you know, or Cody Rhodes. I don't have to fucking take this. I'm better than this.
Right.
You know, it's the decisions you make at the end of the day. But the man behind the curtain that was able to take hardcore and make it work wasn't WCW. It was Vince. Because Vince saw Cactus Jack and said, fuck this, you're mankind. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
That worked out pretty goddamn good.
Hard to argue.
You know? And
again,
Vince,
to be fair, though, they've got an unlimited amount of money, which Vince made an unlimited amount of money. So it's his
made
beast.
That happen.
It's his animal, right?
That's right. That is. And he also knew that the most talented of the bunch coming from ECW was Rob Van Dam. And Rob told the story himself. He put the strap on Rob. He had Rob defeat John Cena.
Look, the reality is that, Jimmy, he looked at Rob Van Dam and said, I can market this guy. He knew he couldn't market Sandman. And I would say this to Sandman if he was in studio. He knew he couldn't market Sandman.
Right.
He marketed the Dudley Boys because they were doing crazy shit in tag team matches. And let's be honest with it. If it wasn't for Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, or all three of them, maybe none of this happens if some of those teams aren't around.
Right. Well, that was the perfect storm, having those three at the right time in the right place. Vince has had a lot of that over the course of his career, whether it's the right place at the right time.
Well, I want to flip scripts because we want to get out of here soon, really soon.
All right.
So Survivor Series, right? You know, we spoke about it. We had a post show, and, you, me, Benny, we kind of ripped Nia Jax apart, right? We were like, she was awful. Chair shots, everything was awful, right? Agreed, right?
Yeah.
So I'm listening to Busted Open. Now, I'm going to give flowers here, right? So they asked Bubba Ray, because everybody's ripping Nia Jax, just like we were. LaGreca is Dream. I don't think Dream is there. So they asked Bully Ray, and Bully Ray goes, it's not Nia's fault. It's Naomi's fault. I think it was somebody else's fault. He goes, every time she was trying to do a chair shot, they were out of position. They put themselves in harm's way. She had to pull back. And I was like, I'm listening. And then when I got home that night, I put on the match and I watched.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now that's why you have a wrestler on your show. Because they see things as great as you are, Jimmy, or as much as I think I know. We don't see that part of it because we're not trained, right? There is training involved here. And I got to tell you, Jimmy, I think he was right. I think Nia took all the heat because her partners in his dance were afraid to take chair shots. They were turning the wrong way. You know what I mean? And the question was posed, does she have the reputation of hurting people? And that's why they're doing it. And the answer was, well, yeah, but you know what? When you train in wrestling, you got to train your body not to, do that. You got to train your body not to react because you got to take the shot, right?
Right.
And I just thought it was interesting. I thought we should have discussed that.
Well, it triggers what I remember Undertaker saying about being forced to work with Mabel back in the day. Mabel was big and reckless. And we're talking about The Undertaker, by the way, the leader and the toughest man in the locker
Sure.
room, the one everybody looks up to. And Mabel was big and reckless. And it got to the point where Undertaker went to Vince and said, you got to put him in the Ministry of Darkness. I don't want to work with this guy. He's too reckless. So if The Undertaker can say that, then sure, I could see why the women might have it in the back of their mind. Fuck, am I going to be the next one who gets a broken nose or a busted lip or I get squashed on and break a rib or whatever? That's possible too, But as far as always being in the perfect position, look, when someone is in the corner and they got a chair up in front of them, and you're perfectly positioned in the corner, and Nia's coming in for a drop kick, and you don't let the chair come closer than a foot to your face. And I saw that Nia threw a full extended drop kick for a girl her size. She did it, and it's still a foot away from the face. So no, I mean, maybe in some examples, I'm sure he's got it spot on, but not every example, because I watched the match too. And there were a couple of times where it was like, you got to make that look better. And they were in position. They weren't always out of position. 1,000% of the time they were out of position. I refuse to believe that. No, Naomi's a great in-ring wrestler. We both know that. And I'm not a fan of Naomi.
Right.
But I'm telling you, when you're in the corner and you got a chair in front of you and someone's flying and hit the chair with a drop kick, you cannot let the chair stop a foot from your face. You got to do a better job than that. And there was no improper positioning on that particular time I'm talking about during the match. So I'll use that as the one example I can give. Is Bubba Ray going to be right more often than not about what he's talking about within ring? Hell yeah. Anybody knows about taking bumps is Bubba Ray Dudley, man. There's no doubt about it. But yet, no, I saw spots during that match. They're in the right position. Nia's just not getting the help. You got to let that chair come close. You got to let that chair touch your forehead or something. You can't keep it a foot away from your face and sell it like you've just had a chair drop kicked into your face. All right, so that's not on Nia. That she was in perfect position for that shot. The fuck are you doing? That looked like shit.
All right, let's get out of here. Saturday on the 14th is Saturday night's main event. How do you feel about Jesse the Body Ventura returning under the color commentary? I don't know if he's going to be there the whole time, but.
Yeah, you sure he's going to show up?
By the way, Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens for the undisputed title. Gunther will defend against Finn Balor. And you also have Liv Morgan will be wrestling Io Sky. And then in the finals will be the WWE Women's Championship. All right, Jimmy, send us out, my friend.
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. And until next week, catch you later, folks.